Hey everybody, Jasmine Webb here. Hope you guys are all doing okay. So I did my research and I'm doing my discussion post on Anne Miles's From Monster to Martyr, representing Mary Dyer. It was really interesting, kind of learning about this woman. And so she followed Anne Hutchinson, who was a big, purporter of rights regarding religious practices during Puritan times, and Mary Dyer, in similar kind of work, followed along in her footsteps and ended up being executed for basically refusal to stop entering Massachusetts Bay Area after being ordered um, to basically witness and talk about her religious choices and all of this stuff. And so what happened was, one thing that really stuck out to me, and I mean, it's kind of a big part of the reading, was that Mary Dyer's first intro, I suppose, into like becoming a known character to the Puritan people was when in Boston she was featured in the newspaper for having, quote unquote, a monster child, which was very interesting because supposedly it was her first child. The birth had not gone well. It was a female girl that died not long after, being born, but the newspaper just totally tore her apart. And this later shows as kind of becoming a trend for basically taking away legitimacy for these women, because Anne Hutchinson, her close friend, who was also a big, pusher against certain religious practices in the Puritan lifestyle, also supposedly had some odd 30 children in one go at the same birth, all of them monsters, none of them human, all kinds of crazy stuff. And, speaking as a woman, that's not going to happen. But it was really interesting how Mary Dyer was portrayed this way, because it shows the Puritans as basically attacking women in this very intimate and unique way, because, women are only able to have children, and that was kind of a big part of them, and it still is to this day. And so by claiming that her child was, a monstrous birth, kind of basically gives the idea that God himself is punishing these women, that God himself is condemning their actions by giving them these monster children. So I think that was really interesting. Not long after this birth, she goes on with her life, she moves around, but she continues to come back to Massachusetts Bay. And eventually it became such a thing that she was visiting people in prison. She gets imprisoned quite a few times, and she even finds herself heading to execution via hanging. So what happened with that was her husband had gone and attempted to parlay for her and requested mercy, but she had to watch two of her friends be executed, and got to the point where she was up on the execution stand herself before they said, no, never mind. She's, we're good. She's being taken down. And she was brought down with the express order to not return to Massachusetts Bay. She goes, wintered away for a little bit, and next season was back talking about her religious ideologies, her religious experiences. And none of them were so radical. That's the funny thing. It was basically just they were saying, hey, we want to have a different kind of style of religions, like practices, and the Puritans were just not having it. So it's really fascinating. And eventually she was executed for returning against the law. And it got to the point where the newly reinstated King Charles II actually finally came in and said, no, we're not executing women anymore for this. Stop it. And she becomes a big martyr. So I think in all, it was a very interesting read, just because we get this look into women's fight for religious freedom that we don't often see, because it's just not written about often. And I mean, just from the way it was written in this instance, I think is very indicative of the way Puritans pushed away the female, kind of perspective. So overall, really cool, and I can't wait to see if anyone else did any of the reading on this lady, and if their ideas are similar. But I look forward to what everyone has to say. So have a good day.